Okay, we are on, man. We're back in the saddle.
I was just thinking about one of the jokes you made the other day, the one that you said, the one that you were like, oh, I guess that I thought it was funny. I was like, I thought that was funny about the football joke where you were like, I guess
Yeah, yeah.
700, like when you put $700 million in the stadium, you're expected to win those games.
No, we're
You know?
going to win them. Not
Oh,
that we're
yeah,
expected. We will. Don't worry about it, everybody. We lost that big game. It's a real drag. You're really sad. But, when we finish, when we spend all of that $700 million, we'll win it.
yeah. Dude, I like that premise. I was like,
Yeah.
he went in his stand-up bag for that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be careful about that. Humor is very fragile these days. It's hard to, but yeah, it's crazy. I thought about this. Here at Penn State, football makes a lot of money, and it just does. It has made a lot of money for the past 40 years or so. I don't know how long, 60 years. I don't know. Makes a lot of revenue, and if we don't invest a lot of money into a stadium or additional monies, right, we can just sort of coast along. We do quite well. The Penn State football revenue pays really for most all the other sports, so it subsidizes them to a huge degree. So it's good, it's fine. And the team does quite well over the past 10 years or so. I mean, it's one of the winningest teams in the country, right, on average. So we haven't won a championship, but whatever, who cares, man? There's a lot of great teams out there. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to do that and be really consistent. But if you can win, 10 or 11 games a year on average, that's pretty awesome, right? Fill the stadium. But the problem is, once you invest, now you invest close to $1 billion. And anyway, we don't have to fire our coach. We have a good coach, and it's fine. Keep those 10 win seasons going. Don't drop to 6 or 7, and we're good to go.
Right.
But once you invest that kind of money, it's like now basically what you have to do is if your coach doesn't come through and win a national championship and win those really big games, you have to fire him, because you don't have a choice. Like, you can't spend that kind of money and continue doing what you've done.
Right, because you won't get the same ticket sales if the audience.
Yeah, you've told your audience. Yeah, you've told your audience, we're going after a national championship here, so we're going to invest all these billions of dollars. And that money, and a lot of that money, most of it, I guess, I don't know, more than half, I suppose. I haven't really followed the money trail too closely, but it's coming from, there are a lot of donors to the university who are going to give $5 million or $10 million or $2 million or $1 million, whatever, for the football team, right? But and so people say, like, well, a lot of this money wouldn't be there if it wasn't for football. But people would be spending it. They'd be spending it on things like World in Conversation.
Right? The money
They
would just go somewhere else. It wouldn't stop.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. I mean, okay, some of it would stop.
I guess some of it
sure
would,
some of these people are like, yeah, I wouldn't give Penn State a dime, except for football, but most, when they might think they're not going to give it to something else, but if you would talk them into it. It's like, well, listen, we got this really cool dialogue, conversation, facilitator training program called World in Conversation. And in these really contentious times, that like the ones that we're in, don't you think it'd be a really good idea to train students and then ultimately sponsor conversations that are nonpartisan and where all the voices can come to the table, and people really learn how to facilitate these like highly controversial and issues and so on. And wouldn't that be a good idea in this time when we're falling apart? And yeah, it wouldn't be hard to sell.
And it's, oh man, just you're making me think about the other programs that are or like little events that are being funded that are supposed to be some type of dialogue, like bipartisan uh, thing. And
Yeah.
man,
Oh,
world in
wow. Yeah.
conversation.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to talk about those, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Some things that do get funding, it's pretty sad. But in any case, man, so that was my joke about the football stuff,
And just to, I don't think we ever got to, or I wasn't in, I'm not sure, like where we were in office hours in relation to the Jimmy Kimmel thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you ever got to speak on that during office hours, or um, maybe one that I wasn't. Last week it was it was a different
Yeah,
podcast
I
with
don't
the guest on, but
yeah, I
it
don't
just made
think
me think about that as soon as you were like, it's sensitive.
well, it's kind of interesting that I mean, we did the one class on it, right? We're all snowflakes now, class 10, and we have some questions from the chat on that, by the way. But like here's a question from Jennifer, actually. The second question, Jeff, that she asks, how do you share your perspective without inherently pushing your views? And man, I don't know. I'm having an increasingly a very difficult time doing that. Because
Really?
because I'm really cautious about
Mm,
sharing my perspective. I'm growing more and more cautious about it. I don't need a big, uh, I don't need a blow up at the university anyway. And so I'm going to be really cautious. And of
right.
course with the students, I'm going to be especially cautious. But like here in office hours, I'll be a little more open about things that I think, but definitely not with students. I don't need any kind of blow up. So
Right. Right.
it's very hard. And I don't know, for somebody like me, like I don't know when I'm just making a point and somebody else thinks I'm pushing my views, And then the other
Mm,
side is, well, I need to push some students in one direction and other students in another direction, and a third group in a
right.
completely different direction, right? I mean,
Right.
that's how they think. But the problem is people will often only see me pushing the one group of students, and so by the time they start ranting about that, and they don't notice that I pushed these other
You're
students
actually
that way.
taking all sides.
Yeah, and take it all sides, man. There you are.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem, right? And you can't, once that gets, for somebody like me working inside of an institution like Penn State that's become very sensitive to all institutions, I think have become sensitive to that sort of thing. I'm like, well, if I don't push any side, then nobody can ever say that I only, they can't complain about about the issue, right? They can complain about the fact that I don't take any sides, but they can't grab something and push it forward and not show that something else, right? Because the university doesn't care about that. I have to tell it once the complaint goes up the chain and down the chain, then I have to say, well, go back and look at the video. You'll see something else. Well, it's already a strike against me. That's a black mark. Still, it's like there was a complaint. And so I've said this before, right? The mere complaint, it's like a rumor. A rumor is a rumor, man. You can't it doesn't matter. You immediately imagine that there's some truth to it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like
Yeah.
immediately there's some truth. And the fact that
Yep.
there's some truth is like that's enough to check the
Yeah.
box.
Oh man, it's so sad, really, so for me, I'm right now, I'm super, super cautious. I didn't used to be because I just live in this world. It's like, well, hey, I'm a nice guy, man. Like I'll be all right. Like, dude, that's not enough. You know what I mean? I'm really, I'm trying to do my best, but that's not necessarily enough, man. So I gotta be like, oh God, okay. Anyway, so how do I share my perspective without inherently pushing my views? And for anybody, actually, right? It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. If the other person isn't also equally willing to share their perspective, and if you're not equally willing to listen to it, then it's almost impossible. But if there's a certain kind of agreement that's like, hey, I'm going to share this thing, you tell me what you think, then you just do it, and the second part of Jennifer's question is, how do you listen to someone without thinking about how to argue against what they say? Well, the way I do it is I listen to them and I assume that what they're saying is true. So it's like, wait, hang on. What?
Right.
Just tell me. I was listening to this. Hey, I listened to the BBC. They had this thing called The Interview, and it was the current Secretary of Energy. And this was like 3 a.m. I wake up at, usually about 2 a.m, and then I go back to sleep, and I woke up at 4 a.m. Sometimes I just hate going to sleep because I know I'm going to wake up,
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I'll turn the BBC on and I'll listen to it a little bit. But the show was on called The Interview, and this guy he's being I don't know what his name is. He's like, he was being interviewed about the current administration's policy on energy and why we're returning to coal and fossil fuels and carbon-based fuels and so on, right? Mm-hmm. And so as I was listening, what I said to myself is, okay, man, bro, listen, call myself bro,
You're like in the mirror. You're in the mirror.
I'm in the mirror. I'm like, bro, all right, listen. People ask it. I saw a comment, somebody in one of the articles about, stop calling your students bro and trying to be cool.
Was it critical?
Yeah, I was like, I don't look at comments very much, but I just happened to see that. Why is this guy trying to be cool, calling his students bro and dude? Right. I'm like, man.
It's like I was calling people bro before they were calling people bro.
Dude, I call Laurie bro. You know what I mean? Right. Laurie calls me bro. She's like, yo, bro, what's up? Yo, bro,
and it started with dude, right?
Yeah, and then she'll be like, dude, you didn't do the dishes. And anyway, I'll call her bro. Like, hey, bro, can you hop in here real fast? Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I can't. Right. I can't. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to. It's I don't know. It's a mental illness, and I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so anyway,
like, what's the actual impact of it besides maybe students?
There's none.
Feeling a little like relate, like you can relate with them.
I don't even think about that. I don't care.
I'm not saying that you think about that.
But what is it? Yeah.
As a student, when you're just calling me bro, like remembering that, this dude's cool.
Oh, really? Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was like, so chill. So
okay,
chill.
all right. Well, I'm not trying to do that at all. Like, I don't even think about it. I've never, the fact that you just said that right now is the first time anyone has ever said anything to me about it.
Really?
Yeah, never heard a response from anybody. No, yeah. Just like, no, never asked, don't care. I just go in, I'm just myself, man. And so, yeah.
I mean, it's important as, especially in the profession that you're in, and it's cool to be like liked as a professor so you can do the things that you do, right. And, not that you're trying to, but the fact that it does come off that way, I think is a good thing. You don't have to be in that world.
I would assume that just as many students would feel some kind of way about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't call people dog. Laurie would be like, yo, dog. Laurie calls me like, yo, dog, what's up, man? So it's dog, dude, and bro. Right? That's what she and I call each other on a regular basis. Not lovey-dovey and hey honey, hey dear, can you, like, we just have never done, we have no terms of endearment whatsoever, unless dog, bro, and dude are terms of endearment.
Yeah. Can you add gang in there? Like, what's up, gang? Like,
Gang. No, we don't. I could throw that in there. All right.
yeah, be like,
Kind
yo,
of a
what's up,
gang.
gang? Like, how you doing? Dab her up.
Yeah. All right.
So,
If we can include all of our plants in the house, we'll be like, oh, we're a gang.
yeah.
Fun fact.
Anyway. Okay.
The
So
the tier
what's
list for the memberships on YouTube are called Dude, Dog, and Bro. And I did not talk to Sam about doing that. I just did it, but it fits perfectly.
That's really
Is
funny.
it DAWG?
Of course it is.
All right. Okay. Good.
There's no other way that you spell it.
Well,
That's hilarious.
If you're talking about Roshi, you'll say DOG. Any other time, you're talking about DAWG.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. So listen, I want to go back to the story. So I'm listening to the BBC, right? And I say to myself, all right, look, man, I feel some kind of way about climate stuff, right? Because I have really been thinking about it very thoughtfully for 20 years, I would say, right? And now 20 years ago is when I met my first climate scientist who's like, world renowned. And I started a conversation like, all right, man, walk me through some stuff, help me out here. And I pay attention, so, and I read stuff and I watch lectures and I read scientific articles as best I can, because they're really hard, but I sometimes try to parse through them, not a lot of them, because I really can't understand them. This is the thing. I got to have like some kind of a synthesis of the information.
Right.
But I am paying attention, and I'm also, I'm an iconoclast. Like I'm not going to follow, just follow, because I don't follow. Right. I'm like, no, yeah. Stuff. I don't want to think that it's a bunch of bullshit. Like we're not, the earth is, what, come on, man. Yeah. I just have a natural inclination toward that. So anyway, with this guy, last night, I told myself, hey man, listen to him. This is going back to Jennifer's question. How do I listen to someone without trying to argue with them? I said to myself, assume he's right. Okay. He's right. Okay. So what do you got? Start with that assumption. So listen to him as though you agree with him. And then as I did that, I started listening. I started having some thoughts about like, okay. All right, well, maybe. And I heard him say certain things. And one thing that he said, for example, was, well, yeah, of course, human beings are having an impact on the environment. Of course we are, CO2 levels and so on. I'm like, oh, whoa. Hang on. He just acknowledged that, right? That's the thing that people's like the like extreme anti-climate change people are just like, no, we're not having any impact. And this guy's like, no, of course we are. Like, yeah, that's a given. We're burning fossil fuels. Like, yeah, all right. But if the question is, it's just not. Then he said this next thing, which is really important. Like, it's not going to have the impact nearly as quickly as we imagined that it would. And by the time we get there, by the time we get to the place where it's going to have the greatest impact and we're going to see stuff start to spiral, it's like, well, we'll have developed these alternative forms of energy, but wind and solar and so on, it's just not going to do it. It's not going to give us the kind of the kilowatts that we need to produce in order to run societies as we're running them, especially as we move toward AI and we just have this churning impact of these massive, computer data banks and so on, right? And so I went, okay, all right, okay. So I heard, right? Like I'm like, all right, well now we've started here, because I'm in the same place. Like I'm like, well, I don't know when the collapse is going to happen. If we keep going, there's probably going to be some kind of collapse, right? I assume that.
Right.
I don't know when. And he's saying like, I don't know when. So like, all right. Okay. Now we're in a different place. Right.
Yeah.
And the same is true with AI, right? Like,
now we're in a different place, as in like you're in a different place with it. Because you embraced the idea rather than
he and I we came together on this one really important point, which is like, now he might change his tune, because, you know, this is like Trump. I mean, the guy changes the way what he says every time I turn around. He's saying something different. So maybe this guy's going to say the same thing, or he's going to change. But last night he said what I really I needed to hear him say, right? Because I'm like, come on, man. The data are the data are just incontrovertible that human beings are having an impact on the environment in a way that's problematic and troubling. You know, that's just, to me, you could move me off of that rock that I'm standing on. It's going to be really difficult because it just seems like, you know. Anyway,
right. So like for were you like saying that to like say where you are about global warming, or like as an example of, you know, was this a guy that you are originally like disagreed with, or someone that
I
you
just
weren't
assume I
sure?
disagree.
Yeah,
I made the assumption that I'm like, come on, dude.
yeah,
Seriously, we're going,
right,
but we're going to start burning coal and come on, man. Like, dude,
right, yeah,
keep investing in these alternative forms of energy, which people are going to do. It doesn't really matter what the Trump administration does. You know, the companies that are involved in this, they're going to continue to invest. And
right.
so anyway,
And just
in
well,
energy,
most people wouldn't even listen; they'll just reject immediately.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
right,
Yeah.
and you got to the point where you could listen enough where you read of, oh, I can, like, okay,
Oh, we
I
can
can
work
see some,
together here. Yeah,
yeah,
we got that. All right. Because basically, you're right. I've looked at the data on wind and solar. It's like, dude, we're not kidding. We're getting nothing from wind, and compared to what we need, we're getting like 3% of our kilowatt hours from wind and solar. It's like I don't
wow,
know how
that's
many more wind farms
3%.
it's a very small number, man. I don't know what it is, but it's very small.
Wow,
And so you're
I'm
gonna have
listening. I'm just gonna grab my computer charger. I'm
yeah, all
listening.
right, that's cool, man. All right, so anyway, that was my response to Jennifer. Okay,
We're gonna
hang on.
have to go quite a bit faster because we have a lot of questions.
Okay, dude. All right, let's go to this next one. Chicken pork adobo. Do you think foreign nationals have a right to criticize and/or join activism against a host country? Like, yeah, I think to limited. Well, first off, I'm not going to say no. You don't have a right. Like, it is. Like, come on, man. I want. Just because you're a citizen of my country. Let me just stick with my country. Just because you're a citizen, or because you're not a citizen, like, hey, I want to hear from you. It's like, you criticize. That's fine. And joining the activism, I don't know really what that would mean, but there are definitely certain types of activism. There, you know, that we're all human beings here, so it's like, doesn't matter that you're citizen or non-citizen. You have, if you have something, if it's really important, you have something to say, like, then join. Like, let's say it's modern day slavery, and like, you know, we have more slavery in the world today than any point in human history, right? And so you're here in this country, you're protesting the all of the many industries that are involved in slavery around the world, right? I mean, there are many of them. So it's like, and you're going to be here and protest that. Let's say that maybe you're protesting slavery in your own country, like the DRC, for example. And so it's like, yeah, you know, to come protest that here. Like, good for you, man. We need to hear that. Americans need to hear that. So, like, you know something that we don't know. It's like, yeah, I've experienced slavery in my home country, and you know, and slave-made products are being sold here in the United States, and Americans don't know anything about it. And I'm holding a protest sign, and I'm protesting the organization involved. Like, go for it, man. Yeah, I want that.
What,
So,
um,
did you get all that, Elijah?
yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask a question. I was gonna be like, what does the person, just so we could understand, what does the person who isn't for that, like, what are they thinking? Think, like, what could you imagine that they're like, no,
Well, I could
we're going this
imagine
way,
that
and this is
there's
why.
yeah, I think there are also a lot of people that are, you know, people who are not citizens. I mean, who are just really engaged in protests, including maybe violent. We think protests, we initially think violent. The vast majority of protests is not violent at all. So I think that probably a lot of times if people read a question like that,
they'll be like,
to
no,
join,
because it'll lead to
foreign
violence.
nationals, can they join activism like in the host country? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it just depends on what it is, but
Right.
we're all connected here. All right, man. Rick says, why does it feel like white people, the majority, have been correcting the wrongs of the past, in quotes, when modern Americans haven't had anything to do with slavery, Jim Crow, etc.? Well, the issue is that this is this generational wealth and generational advantage issue that we talk about, that I do this thing in class about climbing the stairs, and I use this as, I sort of symbolize it, but there is not in terms of any single individual family, but if you look at, wealth based on ancestry and family household wealth on average based on families, it's much, much higher for white people. And that's generational. There was no point at which we just stopped and we relined up at the starting line in like 1865 or after Jim Crow, in 1964 with the passage of the Civil Rights Act and so on. We didn't reline up. And so, you're going to have we're trying to correct things, but like, how do you correct things how do you do that in a way that doesn't hurt other people? Right. So it's very difficult, man. That's what we've been struggling with. That's what all the argumentation is about. But I didn't grow up, my house, particular family didn't have a lot of advantage. And Elijah, I think the white side of your family didn't have a lot of advantage, if I understand correctly. Mm-hmm. So I can say, like, for me,
in terms of where they were in their class.
Yeah, in the class system.
Yeah, definitely working class for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but nonetheless, on average, even today, like, dude, the white wealth is just far beyond what it is for Native Americans, for Black people, for Mexicans, for Latinos, Hispanics. So anyway, that's what we're struggling with, right? So I didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm part of a group of people that had a distinct advantage of it, and now I got to figure out what to do.
Yeah. So, I guess I don't know what the right way is to word this question, but when that question was asked, it made me think about I don't know, it makes me ponder on like where we are as a society when it comes to like ethics, what are our, I don't know, I don't even know if ethics is the right word, but like our morale as a society, or like what we feel, because like some are like, oh, I don't have, like, whose responsibility is it, first of all? Or like,
yeah.
And like, I really am curious, just how much should the citizen like feel responsibility or for something that they would, but like, you'd want to feel a responsibility because humans, but because we're all humans, but then like everyone has to worry about their own family.
Yeah,
and
this
then,
is the problem.
It's like
this is the problem. Yeah. This is it. I mean, we're all in it. We're going to support the people closest to us, right? We're going to, it's very complicated, man. There's no answer. You can't just be like, hey, why don't we take all the money from these people and give it to those people? It's like, wait, what? Like, what? So I don't know. But the point being, when you look at the wealth numbers, the differences on average, man, they're just fundamentally so different. That's why we talk about this generational wealth and change and so on.
Would that make, it's a good case study to like look at, and again, I don't know, but I feel like when you say that point, like the difference in wealth, and then thinking about ethics that way, it's like,
yeah, that's right.
It's like, dang, like you have so much money.
Yeah. But nobody ever feels that way. Even rich people don't feel that way. Like I feel like I have to keep reminding myself that if I take myself back like 35 years, when Laurie and I moved in together in 1990 and started living in sin, right? So what's that, 35 years ago? we had nothing, man. All we had was some debt. We had nothing. And so it's like, I have to I don't feel rich at all, but we've been very frugal and we don't spend money. I have to remind myself, hey man, you're in a very different place. And people generally don't feel that,
Right.
All right, man. Next, Glennis says on the next slide, why do young people tend to rely on their peers to navigate the world around them? I think because you got nothing. I think because we spend so much time when we're young with our peers. Like you're in school, we have friends, we're trying to come of age, we're looking to everybody around us for how to be in the world and what to be. And we have our families for sure, but peers are that are so critical and so essential. So we're going to navigate the world according to what our peers think and want and tell us to do. So it's pretty intense, even as we get older, man.
It's so interesting.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder. What do you think about homeschooling?
Well,
because I've just like seen, I don't know, like I always think of like shelter,
yeah,
and like the family system having complete control over how like the child may navigate the world, and that could be either to like maybe the child's benefit or to their
detriment.
to their detriment. I don't
So
know.
here,
That question is making me think about that.
that's pretty cool. Okay, so here I'll give you my take on homeschooling that I have experienced as a teacher. I've had many students who have homeschooled. By and large, almost across the board, man, the students who are homeschooled are really smart, very talented, and really good students, almost across the board. I've never had a homeschool student. I've had a lot of homeschool students, by the way. I've never had somebody in class who was a dullard, man. I'm like, dude, your parents they definitely failed you, man. Would they put you out in the chicken coop and have you just clean it every day for 12 years? Like, damn, you like got nothing, man. If the chickens didn't give you some new ideas, you got no. I don't have that. I've never had that. They're really good, and the students who are really the most thoughtful and grounded and balanced are often the ones who did after school activities in some kind of school system, so they played soccer, they did choir, they did something. They weren't just home, or they joined some kind of other groups where they had access to a lot of other kids. And
so you're noticing like homeschooled and those that maybe weren't homeschooled but participated in extracurricular.
Yeah. Who were homeschooled and participate in extracurricular activities almost across the board. Those students are just like, whoa, man, you're always cool, like cool, smart, really yeah.
And people that are homeschooled come from, it's not a controlled value system. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's a value system. Yeah, because when you're homeschooled, you're gonna be whatever parent is homeschooling, and I know this with people I know who homeschool. Again, it's a limited sample, but it's probably a much bigger sample than the average person has. Parents generally, they ground them in some kind of value system. It's not always a Christian one, by the way. So there are a lot of Christians that homeschool. Our neighbors, our former neighbors, homeschooled all their kids. And they were very Christian in their orientation.
Right.
Like they had church at home. Like it was like they didn't go to church anywhere. People came to their house and they had church. We'd hear them singing on Sunday mornings. So they would serenade the whole neighborhood with the song and so on. They had it was nice. But anyway, I find that people they have a value system that they're grounding into, and I think they're planting seeds. You said ethics, right? Ethics and values and morals that they don't just do it because for whatever reason. You don't just homeschool your kids because you're just like, oh, I just feel like homeschooling my kids. Because you're like, no, I want my child to have a really thoughtful. And I want to be with them all day long, right? Like I want to be part of that because you can still do that, and your child goes to school every day, but when your child's home every day, it's different, man. And so I don't know. I find it to be, yeah,
That's
really
cool.
cool. I've had some kids, homeschool kids, man, God, they just most awesome people, you know. So.
Wow. Yeah, because my aunt, she's homeschooling her kids, and I was just always nervous because I think I did when I was experience of some kids or like friends at the time that I knew that were homeschooled, and they just seemed very antisocial, you know, or like navigating socially seemed to be
Okay.
not as easy for them, and I think that's where I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's
Okay.
good,
Well,
you know, and then.
so here it is,
But
right?
yeah, go ahead.
Those kids probably don't end up in my class. They probably, if they go to university, and so many do, they would go to a much smaller university. They would go to a different place. They wouldn't end up in my class. And these days, if they end up in my class, I probably wouldn't get to know them because they might be more inwardly focused. They might be, there will be all sorts of reasons why. But you know what?
That's a cool observation or just
I think
thought.
I have a student right now who applied to volunteer who was homeschooled. I should let me see. I should
That's
have
cool. Is that one of
conversation.
your questions? Like if you were public school or homeschooled?
No,
Okay.
no. They said that I think they just wrote it in their thing. All right, here. Nick from
That's
Omaha
significant.
said, I believe a neo-Nazi march would not be allowed to happen in today's America. I think it would be, actually. I think there'd be a lot of, well, we've seen it, actually. We've seen neo-Nazi marches, basically,
Where
in very
have we seen
recent
that?
times. Is that a problem, or was that the solution? Well, I think, and ironically, it's a problem because this is the nature of these things. Well, first off, why do you need a neo-Nazi march? Like, come on, man, people, can't we get past this? Like, holy smokes. So that in itself is a problem that we have that, or that some people think that that's the solution or whatever, but.
And that has to be involved in, I don't, again, like involved in freedom of, like that is a part of freedom of speech or freedom of expression.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, is it hate speech or is it freedom of expression?
Yeah.
Thing?
That's unfortunate that we're there, but we are there and we continue to be there. And I guess we're constantly testing the limits of free speech. I mean, that's what's going on. But it's unfortunate that we can't just engage with one another, and we don't have to test the limits of free speech, but like whatever. So it's both a problem and a solution. Yeah. Yeah. God, it's crazy.
Because if you hide it, then you don't know if it exists or not.
Yeah, that's right, man.
And then you don't want to be in that place.
Yeah, we don't want to be in that place. Yeah.
Of like not knowing who's there.
Yeah. And then, okay, so here, Whopper from the Netherlands asked, like, how do Americans balance freedom of speech and hate speech? You know, I think I'm actually contemplating doing an entire class on hate speech, because we had that question about speech, or we had the class about speech, but I was thinking maybe later in the semester, maybe it'll pop up. We never got to hate speech, like what it is, and I don't know. I feel like I'm really curious about what people think it is, what this generation thinks it is, and how much it really matters, how much they're willing to tolerate.
I'm actually surprised you don't have a lecture on that.
I know, I've never talked about it. Yeah, I'll wait. When there's something pops up in the news really hardcore, it won't take very long, I'm sure. We'll do that. Okay, Stephen from the UK says, does the pressure of having to think before you speak make it harder to socialize and join in with people? Yeah, definitely. I'm going to speak for me. This is going to students, so like, I don't know. Let me ask you, is it harder for you to socialize?
Because of me being in this environment?
Yeah, like you have to think before you speak, and you represent World in Conversation and Social 19.
Definitely. I think when I'm in certain spaces, I think obviously when I'm in other spaces it's more lax, but I think the most relatable experience to this question would be just when I'm in Pond Building and I'm around students, just modeling in any way I can principles that like represent World in Conversation and keeping space open for people, and leading with curiosity, or inclusiveness, being inclusive, or like
Mm.
just just continuing to create and say things that invite. I don't know. I definitely am thinking about that when I'm here at work, for sure. But actually, I don't feel like that when I'm in office hours with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, to me, I feel like you're upholding that for like us kind of sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
With like what you're understanding, and I'm kind of like listening, and
And when you say inclusive, you mean really, see, and that's
I know, I felt like
one of
that word
those.
was gonna, when I said that word, I was
No, it's okay, because I want to say what I know you mean by it, because it's like a trope in a way for the left. The left, we want to be inclusive and include all the voices of marginalized groups, and you're like, yeah, well, we do, and one of the marginalized groups are people who are, especially at the university, are very conservative, and all that.
right.
You want to, that means everybody,
Everybody, like every different voice that we can get, it's
like for you, so if a student shows up to your office, if you see a student walk down the hall and they got a Trump hat on, you're going to be like, dude, come, you can go to one of, I'm going to want to talk to him. Like, dude, no, I'm going to be one of, dude,
What's
how is
up,
it to
man?
wear the Trump hat, man? Do people make comments? Do people like, it's such a curiosity, that would be you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
leaning in.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
man. Because you don't
Leaning
see
in, not
Trump
leaning
hats
away.
around here very much. But once in a while you do, like you'll see a student cruising across campus in a cowboy hat, like who's from one of the, from like 30 miles away or whatever. Like they're commuting in and they're like cruising across. They got a cowboy hat. They maybe have boots on, and they're like, okay, that's cool, man. That's cool. I got that. It's like that's the thing. So yeah, that's it. But you don't have, you don't think about it too much because it's
like the
just part of
differences
who
are
you are.
celebrated, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, not to go off in a whole rabbit hole, because it's not always on my mind, but
Yeah.
it's definitely there, like that awareness.
I think I have. For me, I just have such a natural curiosity to everything, and like sometimes, yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's cool,
man.
That's cool,
dude. I remember a few years ago, the first time Trump ran, and when he won the election, the very first time. No, it was during the election. It was the first election. It was 2016. I had a student. First day of class, man. She came in she had a Trump hat on. And I'm like, and I did the thing that I do on the very first day.
I remember she was a facilitator.
Yeah, she was a facilitator, man. And I'm like, yo, you got a Trump hat. Yo, come on, come up here, man. How is it wearing the Trump hat? So we had a conversation. It's like, how is it? Do people ever say anything? And she was like, no, not really. They mostly don't. And like, okay, And some people would say like, oh, you'd never wear a Trump hat on, on a college campus. I'm like, well, she's wearing it, and so then I want to know, like, what's the response? What do people say? And so we have a conversation. And I just can't not be curious. And then the other side is like, well, I don't want to point her out. I don't want to single her out, but I'm like, well, she's all right with that. She's wearing a Trump hat, man. You know what I mean? So she's cool with that. Like, so like, but nobody was wearing a Biden hat. I never had. So it's like, well, students wore a Biden. Nobody. I never saw a student in a Biden hat. Last election.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, no, last election, we had a student in class in a Trump hat and another student in a Kamala Harris hat. And the reason I knew that is because the Kamala Harris student, it was before class. The person who was wearing the Kamala Harris hat saw the person in the Trump hat, and who was sitting kind of in the front row, and came up before class with their phone, and they got a selfie together.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? Yeah. And otherwise I wouldn't have even noticed, but I'm like, okay,
Right.
then I jumped in. I'm like, hey, I want to in. I want in on this selfie too, And like that's the stuff, man. That's the average stuff that goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. It makes me think we were talking about when you were talking about walking around and the perceived fear that people have, like the
Yeah.
perceived the perceived combativeness between everybody
Yeah.
two students chilling taking a selfie, like there's no combativeness there.
Yeah.
Even though
And
I'm
that
not saying
was
that it doesn't exist, but
no, yeah, that's right. But that was the only Kamala Harris hat. And okay, and the reason people don't wear Kamala Harris hats, I asked some people, and on one hand, it was like, it's not very cool. And the other side, it's like, I don't want people to know what I'm thinking. Like, I don't want to be singled out. I'm like,
yeah.
whoa, hang on, but that's what people would. That's why they would or wouldn't wear a Trump hat as a Kamala
There's
Harris.
something
It's the
different
same
there,
thing.
though.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but nonetheless, it's not as different as people imagine it to be.
Yeah. No, I guess I was wondering, like, what's the emotion, or what is it, the pathos, like around is it pathos? Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah.
Around, because I feel like people wearing a Biden hat would, I don't know, like at the time, because of all the narratives around and having like dementia and like all these things, like this idea of like being embarrassed, or I don't know. And then I don't know, I feel like the Trump side it seems like they're more like, at first it was like there's a pride, like I'm proud, like
Yeah, that's
fighting through that. Oh, you should be embarrassed to be a Trump person. But
Yeah, I'm going to fight through
proud of it,
stereotype.
actually. Like
among students, you're talking about among students, and I would agree with you absolutely. Yeah. And the Biden, in terms of wearing a Biden hat, maybe it's like people. I was going to wear my Biden hat, but I forgot to put it on or whatever. Wait, is that? Oh, wait, could that get me canceled? In the like you're not allowed to you can't make a joke about that. Like,
I was gonna wear it, but I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot.
Matt
I was gonna wear it, but I forgot.
Matt said maybe the Dems need better merch.
Yeah. What's that?
Matt said maybe the Dems just need better merch.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably that would be good. Yeah. Merch. Yeah, probably so, for sure. That's funny. That's the thing, man. You don't know like who's gonna cancel me out these days. You can't make jokes. God. All right. Anyway, all right. Darkwing Duck says, all right. Is that yesterday's class? All right. Okay. All right. Good. So Axel said, okay, there we are, man. Why have you decided to dedicate your lives to create peace? Oh man, that would be good for the team. I think each one of the people, I can respond to David because of what he experienced as a young man with the troubles in Northern Ireland. No question, he told the one story. Bossum because of what he experienced with the death, the accident, as he calls it, killing of his wife and daughter and brother and nephew. And Julie because she's a sociologist, man, who's grown up with this conflict in Colombia, and she just sees how man, if you don't come together and engage, it just spirals. And Susan, I don't know. She does. That's not what she doesn't do the work that the other three do. But she's a professor, but she's not primarily focused on that in the same way. So, yeah.
You're bringing me back to just side note about Julie when we did I think when you were in Korea, and it was just Jeff and I doing the office hours, and we brought on Julie. That was such a cool interview about all the different things that she did on the ground when she was in Colombia, like working with like those from like the countryside that are coming back into the City, or
Yeah.
man, that was
Yeah.
cool. Not to
Yeah,
take
it's
us off,
cool.
but that was cool to hear.
She's done some really, really important work there. Okay. Tornado from Kansas City is asking, how do we have these conversations in the midst of chaos and just the feelings of unease and fear? I think you just have them, man. You just have to have them. You just have to
Wait, what was
have
the question?
The question is, how do we have these kinds of conversations about civil discord and breakdown in the midst of so much chaos and just general feelings of unease and fear? You just have to have them. You just have to keep going and keep talking and knowing that it's not that we go through these periods. Man.
It makes me wonder, like, for a tornado, like, if I were to ask a question back, like what is what does it mean to him? What is it saying? What is fear saying to him that we can't do, or something? I don't know. Or like,
that's cool.
I'd be curious to know the answer to that, and then
what's the unease and that's right. What's on the unease and the fear? Like, what's it? Why is it get in the way at all? Like, that should be the motivation, to do it. We need other people, like I want to, So when the conflict, or so Stephen, and it says, when the conflict or the trouble's end, what happens next? Yeah, what happens next? That's the problem. If the mental damage lasts for years after, people don't think about that, and it should be something people need to think about. Yeah, because the mental damage does, man. The deep divides, the hate can last for so long. It's just the deeper you dig in, the harder the more difficult it is to come back out when the conflict is over. Like, to the forgiveness. Like, sometimes with Laurie and I will get in a fight, and I'm like, I'll just simmer in it for too long, and I cross over some line. And when I cross over the line, then I'm just like, dude, fuck, I don't even want to see her. I don't even want to talk to her. But if I don't let it simmer for very long, it's just like 10 or 15 minutes. And then happened the other day, I don't know what we were arguing about, and something that she did wrong, and I'm sure I didn't do anything wrong. Whatever it was, I pretty quickly said, like 10 minutes later, I was like, oh, dude, you got to go back in that really quickly, because I don't want this. I can't let this fester because I'm too busy. I have too many things going on right now. I can't have this argument with her in the back of my mind, or the side of my mind, There's not, I don't have that much space, So then like 10 or 15 minutes later, I went back downstairs where her office is. I'm like, hey, yo, dude, I got to go back into this real fast, maybe I said, yo, dog. I don't remember what I said.
Yo, dog.
Man. But either way, we were like, all right. And then we still had a little thing, but it would smooth over. But had I not done that, it just would have been so much more difficult. So when Stephen's asking, when the conflict or the troubles end, like, what do you do? Like, you got to rebuild your alliances and your sense of trust. And, that's why, in Northern Ireland, man, it's still going on. David's still working over there, man. It's like the peace, it ended. Like, come on. Shit, 15 years ago, man, it's over, right? But 20 years ago, but he's still operating because it's still there, people's minds. Yeah, they can't get it. So, all right, man. So here's Jennifer. We were actually going to ask this in class. How do we deal with the problems that are caused by differences in culture and beliefs in the U.S.? We keep talking about them, and that's why it's so important, a class like Social 19, where we're talking about all these issues, and people will say, like, why do we have to keep talking about it? Why do we need a class on race and ethnicity and culture? And because, man, why do we need a class on gender? Because we want to sort of bring the stuff up and have conversations. Like, we just have to keep talking about it, not ad nauseum to the end of our dying breath, but like, come on, man, the problems are caused by this. So let's just keep engaging.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, bro?
Well, and like not enough has been like, that's so interesting because it makes me think about how we're confused about like what talking is.
Yeah.
Because because a lot of people like talking is just talking points.
Yeah.
And not like the detail or the like really digging into the nitty gritty of the person or like sociological address or like people are so used to trading narratives back and forth or like, and it's like, so you were saying that people are like, how much do we have to talk about this? But it's like, well, first we need to like realize like what talking, if this is where you were going, we need to realize like what talking actually is, or like what is productive talking, or
well, it's kind of funny. I don't know what productive talking is, but I guess it's like we like with Laurie and I, when we're always trying to get to a new place. It's amazing. We've been talking for 40 years. Okay.
That's a cool concept.
Yeah, 40 years. Because that's how, our relationship was established around talking. So we used to, we didn't have any money. So we would go to this really inexpensive falafel shop. It was called Evelyn's on the main drag in New Brunswick. And we'd bring a beer, a few beers, and we'd get a falafel. And then we would just sit and talk. And the falafels it was so for like $10. So we could just have an evening of it.
Yeah.
And then we go back to my place or somewhere and we would just talk. And then we've been doing that forever. And I'm like, but we're always just trying to peel the onion back, the layer back to go somewhere slightly different. And that's kind of what it is,
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like not productive talking. Is it like
no? I like productive. Productive is good. Yeah.
I was making me think like always peeling the onion back, like always like or not
no,
like
I think
always
something
being in
new.
conflict, but
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I think something slightly new, something like, hey, I was thinking about this. And now if you put the totality of all of our conversations together, you're going to see certain themes that we hit over and over and over again. But, we're always trying to go in some new spots. And that's why when I hear, like I'm listening to Trump's, the energy secretary, whatever the guy's name is, I don't remember. But I'm like, okay, guy, give me, I'm wide open, man. My mind's wide open. Give me something I haven't heard before, And if you're not engaging with people who you think you disagree with, we got nothing new. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff over and over again. It would be like then you become like the specialist. Like I know a couple historians who are, like a historian of the Civil War. And they're not just a historian of the Civil War, but a historian of the battles in the north of the Civil War, right? And I'm like, what more can you learn, man? Like, what more? Like, but it's cool, right? It's cool to have specialists like that. It's amazing. It's awesome. But it's like,
that's cool. It's a cool analogy.
Yeah, but you gotta have something that so for me, I'm trying to find things I disagree with, because I want to. All right, man. Hey, wait, when do you have to leave?
I was gonna probably like 2 minutes because Pond it might take like what 7 minutes to get to.
Where's your car?
It's right behind Pond. Hopefully, there's no ticket.
Oh man. All right. Yeah, why don't you go, man? Why don't you go? I'll let Laurie know that you're on your way.
It's gonna make me ask what I was like, what moves or what things do you do what role do you play or accountability do you hold taking things place with Laurie? I was like, like what do you say or what do you do or like how are you thinking or like what is involved in like taking things to a new place? That's what I was gonna ask. That's what I was curious about.
Oh, that's it. You know what? I'll give you my I'll give you my answer, and then you ask her. All right, and then
Okay.
next,
Yeah.
because you're going to see her in a few minutes. So then next
Yeah.
week you could tell me what she said. For me, it's if I don't have something new to say, then we can just sit in silence, which is okay. Silence is good. We've learned to just kind of sit sometimes in our morning coffee or our evening beer.
That's nice.
But it's like, it's not that. But it's okay. We're both talkers more so when we're together anyway, right? So, my responsibility is to come up with something that's going to pique or capture her curiosity. And Laurie has a lot of curiosity, sort of like me. She has a lot of varied interests. So she's really so many things that she can talk about and
that's such a I think that's a really cool piece, to take on, to always be looking what else will keep her curious, keep her interested, like caring in that way, to keep her, the relationship with
keep the relationship
alive
and keep her wanting to come back and have a conversation with me, and same with me for her. It's I always want her to, every morning when she wakes up and in the evening with her beer, I want her to have this feeling, the same feeling I have, which is like, wow, there's nowhere else I'd rather be right now than sitting right here with this human being and drinking this beverage as we talk, as we engage.
That's such a man, like as a young, well, I guess as a almost 30-year-old man, like I'm taking that in as a special life tip, that's really, really cool. All the men out there,
Yeah,
are you taking this in? Like I'm taking this in.
Yeah, well, it's not for everybody, man. I'll tell you, because for a lot of folks, it's just not. It can be. I mean, we live our separate lives, right? But we come together in this way.
Yeah. It just comes so intrinsically from, it's not like it like it's a goal that you have for yourself because you're aware of like what you two need for the relationship, but it sounds like it comes very very intrinsic, like an intrinsic motivation.
Sure. Definitely what we need
pushes for the
relationship. Yeah.
That's cool.
And she has really high standards. So I'm like, she's like, what I think is an interesting, that's a cool conversation. She's like, dude, that wasn't a cool conversation. It was okay. Like my whole life, I've been just like, she's just pushing me. You know what I mean?
Dude, I was talking to Laurie the other day about her cool barometer. Like, I don't know. I feel like she just always has the words or like the barometer of like what's cool or like what's in, like, and like how it's like she is never like too far from the times of like, like the both of you actually. But like there's like this cool barometer that I don't know that she has, like that she like kind of has.
Some of that. Yeah, some of that comes from hanging around with so many young people and like really getting it, it's cool for both of us.
I thought you were going to be like, some of that comes from me.
Yeah, it's definitely, no, she gets that from you. She wasn't cool until she met you, by the way.
Like, you're like, she gets that from me. Like, you saying
that. All right, listen, man, you better go. I'm going to get in trouble.
All right, yeah, I'm going to head
up. All right. If I'm barging through the door, like, what the fuck? All right. Plus, I want to go. I don't want her to drive. I want to make sure I have the car so that I can go get some golf balls.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna head out. Yeah.
All right.
I'll ask her that question. What's her?
Okay. All right. Her rule. All right, man. See you, bro. All right, Jeff. Ian's question. The thing is with that 2% number. Man, I don't remember. What was the number? What was it again that I used yesterday? Hang on, I got to open this up. I got to pull this up. The data, right? Hey, by the way, people were sort of pushing back on this data a little bit, that like Democrats and Republicans think on average that Democrats think that Republicans like 45% support partisan murder and Republicans on average think that 42% of Democrats, these are average numbers because obviously they're asking a lot of people, they're average numbers, support partisan murder. And people were like, oh my God, that's too high. And I asked Laurie about this, and Laurie's like, that doesn't sound high to me at all. Because that's where we get to. We get to this space where we think that we demonize the other side, and we think the other side are like, there are these crazy people over there, you know, and we get that by, you know, like people around us telling us that they're crazy people, right? All the, you know, you listen to the right, they kind of have this Trump hysteria syndrome, right? That people are like, oh my God, Trump is a lunatic, and you know, that kind of thing. And then on the other side, we have a very similar kind of thing. So where it's like they're, you know, when Charlie Kirk was killed, you know, that guy on Fox News who's saying like, they're coming after us, you know, who's they, man? Like they're killing us. Like, oh God, stop, man. So it doesn't strike me as being very odd. And by the way, these numbers were actually from over a year ago, so I can only imagine now it's more. Although Jeff, you said you looked up, and then the 2% number is Americans who actually support some kind of partisan murder. And Jeff, you said that they redid that recently in the past few weeks, and it actually dropped to 1%.
Yeah, let me find it. Give me 1 minute. I'll find it.
And these are all academics who are doing this, and it doesn't matter. The numbers obviously aren't correct. I mean, you're asking people a question and be like, "Hey, what do you think?" They actually said like, "Hey, let's sit down in a group of people and say like, what do you really think?" The number would be way, way, way smaller, right? That's the nature of it. This is just like sort of the social media breeding ground for insanity. They're asking people, you know, a question, but the mere idea, like if you ask me, what percentage of people do I think of Democrats or Republicans support some kind of partisan murder, that I would have said 1%, maybe. Like I just nothing, because I feel like I don't buy into the hysteria. So the fact that anybody under any condition would say a really high number is absolutely striking to me, you know. So anyway, so for Ian, but you said that Ian said the thing about like a very small amount of the world is actually in conflict. It's 2%, it's less than 2%, 1%. I don't know what it is, but it's such a small, yeah. And so anyway, oh yeah, here's that. Okay. Yeah, you could do that. Do you want it with the video too? Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah. No, I got that. You don't have to share it, but yeah. Okay. Well, you
I have the article up. If this is the correct, it's the polarization third. Let me go ahead and put it up here. And
is your audio on the stream, by the way?
Yeah, it is now. The key findings are attitudes on violence. 1% of Americans in September of 2023, or sorry, September 23rd of 2025, support partisan murder. So I believe the number was 2% last year, and it's gone down 1% this year.
Well, that's what happens when you have something, such a notable
event like that happen,
with Charlie Kirk, right? And then if you scroll down a little bit, 73% of Democrats blame Republicans for political violence, and 50% of Republicans blame Democrats. That's a big difference, man. I wonder why that. Yeah, I wonder what constitutes that only half of Republicans are blaming Democrats for the violence. Huh. That's kind of interesting.
And then the next two numbers are 81 and 86% blaming the other side for hostile and angry political speech.
Yeah. But almost half of Americans think that political violence is coordinated by larger political organizations. That's actually really fascinating, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's 61% support disqualifying candidates from ballots for their speech. Well, that would probably, you'd have to disqualify Donald Trump, then, because he's been, no, I mean, I'm not saying, he has been just so, mean-spirited, and like, holy smokes, man. The things that he says are beyond reproach, man. And not everything, but some things are just like, I'm like, whoa, man. Anyway, it's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know. That's quite fascinating. You should put that in the.
Yeah, I'll put it in chat right now.
Yeah. No, Daniel Grant just wrote that he blames media and social media. Dude, social media, absolutely, man. Just like zeroing in on. There's no question. Everybody who studies this is saying like these things are a problem. They are absolutely a problem in dividing us. And yeah, this is like really, really very. Yeah, pull him in right now, man.
All right.
Okay, hello.
Yo, the flopper Whopper.
The Whopper from the Netherlands.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing well today. Hey,
Nice.
yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem. Was like at my uni, I cannot really follow sociology right now, so because then everything would be through. And I found your lectures a while ago, and I was like, oh my god, I can follow some sociology and get a bit of that perspective, because social sciences are very important also in history. So that's why. Yeah, to come to the point, I had asked yesterday 2 questions. The first one is mostly in history we can deem a conflict significant or fundamentally changing after some distance in time. But in sociology, from a sociological perspective, like when would you see that conflict is changing society? Because it is very deterministic in a way.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine about this very issue, and what we're going to say about. We were talking about the military in the United States, and we were talking about what historians are going to write about the military at this stage in history, and is there some kind of significant or notable shift that we're going to see? Because things are moving in a lot of different directions in a lot of places, right? In the Netherlands, as our country pulls back from NATO a little bit, you all are going to have to rethink what the military means there, because some of it you've been able to, like the U.S. has become in some ways like a buffer to that, and so I think that. I think I just follow the historians, because you really need time to understand how we're gonna see things, how things change. And I think too often for me, hang on, I'll say one more thing, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Too often for me, I think things are going to be really significant, and it turns out they're not. So that's why I'm always really reluctant to make any prognostications, actually, because I'm usually wrong.
That's very nice, because I personally also really dislike it when people on the news say this is a significant historical moment, but that is just not how it works. So
yeah, that's right. So are you a historian then?
Yeah. I'm studying history, and I'm specializing in international relations.
Yeah.
And globalization world, so institutions, NATO, the UN, European Union, stuff like that.
Yeah. And so you know that, we just have to wait until the historians decide 50 years in the future or whatever. They'll decide what's significant. Yeah.
That's too bad. I thought you guys from sociology would, already
No,
make a
no, man.
very harsh claim.
No. We do know, and we're usually wrong. Yeah. I mean, there are certain things. Look, for example, if the United States really pulls out of NATO, we're not going to pull out of NATO because that's not going to happen. But when we withdraw funding in the way that we're thinking about it, coupled with the, Putin and Russia trying to kind of establish himself in a new kind of way, man, something's going to shift in Europe. And with all the immigration and the shit, man, something's going to shift. It's pretty significant. We know that. I just don't know what it's going to be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, thank you. And the second question is a bit more complex because it's also a bit of an opinion from my side. And if I ask it to historians, they always are more specific. But Western modern day conflict, is that not the cause of the generalization of society? So between left and right, and shouldn't we more look, maybe also from a sociological perspective, between or return to ideological structures, because left and right are very generalizing, as someone from the left can be just as conservative on certain aspects as someone from the right can be on certain aspects very progressive, and it very, very much polarizes the terms. And most teachers are like also professors at my uni are also contributing to this, to which I'm saying like, but you're also now participating in polarization that you're trying to fight. So it's
yeah. Man, this is very cool. I have to accept a certain amount of responsibility as a sociologist. I often say that my field of study is the study of generalizations, because we're trying to make statements about collectivities of people or groups of people, whatever the group is, right? Urban dwellers, or like in Amsterdam. Let's take Amsterdam. People live inside the kind of the more touristed zone, and then people live outside, and they, one thing after another, right? But we're always making generalizations, because otherwise you can't say anything about anything if you don't generalize. And so men this, women that, that kind of thing. And so we then help to kind of push a narrative like that, whereby generalizations are valuable and worth something. We do it a lot. I mean, everyone does it, right? But we're just more professionalized in the activity. And I sometimes feel like I really would like to stop doing that completely. But then I think, well, I wouldn't have a job. That's what sociology is. So, yeah, but you're right about left and right, man. There is no left and right anymore, right? This is what I think we're really seeing. You're seeing. I don't know what even in the Netherlands right now, you all are dealing with, you have this sort of push from the right to curtail immigration. But if you talk to all of the people who support that, who put themselves in that spot, they have such different views on a wide range of other topics.
Yes. We at the end of this month have to vote, or I have to vote again, because our government has fallen.
Yeah.
And the whole aspect of, I really have noticed, as I am from a lower, I pretty much studied my way up, because the education system is very interesting. But because I'm from a worker class family, and who were from a very socialistic, and to certain aspects very progressive, really flipped in their mindset because of changes, because of multiculturalism that has been in place in cities and or in villages. And it's very interesting to see. And they really are calling that out of like the misgoings. And that is also because of Dutch failures of integration, because from the 60s. But people who are from university or from higher classes in society, they really ignore that, because they do not really live in the poorer regions where there is a disconnection between the two sides, and they cannot find each other. And I think this is not only in the Netherlands a thing, but I also think it's a thing in the United States.
It's very similar here. There are a lot of folks who they can just remove themselves from the conflict. This just doesn't affect their lives, and they don't see it. It doesn't matter. when you're driving through the city center, in one of the large cities in the Netherlands, you're in your car, right? You're not even taking public transportation. You may not even be on your bike. You may be in your car, and you're just not part of it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's a great example of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That was pretty much over my questions, and I will continue bothering you with questions during lectures and whatever. And thank you that I was able to convene with you in person, through internet.
No, it's good. It's nice to meet you for sure. Yeah, thanks for commenting, and thanks for watching. Yeah, I feel really. Yeah, that's. I think Laurie and my wife and I are going to be coming over. We're really trying to get over there around the holidays. So.
I hope you this year. I'm gonna do my master next year. I really hope that you will do one guest lecture at Utrecht University once, just so I can.
All right.
Preach in person.
Well, we would do a lecture for sure in Gouda.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, we'll know. I'll know. You'll know.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for hopping on.
No problem.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
All right, hang on. So here's Lysanders from Kansas City asks, here's the why is South Africa's economy our responsibility, or Iraq's, or any other nation? This is a really good question. We have our own problems here, and we have to do what's best for us. So this is my answer to this question. This is a really, really good question. Technically, it's not our responsibility. And I don't think that's really what's in play here. But what's in play is that we are a globalized economic system. Forget about social and political and cultural system, but just an economic system. We just leave it at that. Each system, because we are so interconnected, there's a way in which the global system rises and falls. It's not one country rises and falls anymore, and especially the more developed nations in the world, the nations with the highest GDPs and so on, the largest GDPs, they rise and fall. And so we no longer, there's no recession that we're going to have that's going to impact just one part of the planet. It's the whole planet. And, it's just one after another after another. It's a domino effect. So right now, for example, in South Korea, Koreans are saying, listen, you put these tariffs on us, and the agreement is that Korea will invest $350 billion in the United States. And it's like, look, man, that's a lot of money. And the Koreans are saying, like, okay, we can do that. And, we're holding them to that. We're sort of, sticking their hands to the fire, so to speak, saying, like, you're going to have to do that. And if you don't do that, we're going to raise the tariffs from, like 15% to 25 or even higher. And then it's really going to hurt you, but it's going to hurt us too. And we don't need Korea to fall into some really complex recession, because that recession is going to hit other nations as well. And so it's not that it's our responsibility, but it matters. We're buying and selling goods from all over the world, and you want other nations to also be thriving. So, and then what you're competing for is what's happening in the marginal sort of spaces in between. And that's where you want to, improve your country over another country, but you don't want to run way out ahead. It's like you watch one of these, like a track meet, and they're running like the 10,000 meter race or the 5,000 meter race, and everybody sort of runs in a group, And then eventually, one person sort of goes out ahead and they win. You don't want to be way, way, way out up front. And you don't want countries way, way, way behind. You kind of want to be in this mostly together, but you want to be leading the pack, but we don't want countries way behind. You just don't want that. It's not a good thing. And it doesn't make sense. And these conflicts, right now in Africa, for example, is the UN, we're now going to have to come to terms with some things, but we don't want that. It has an impact. All of this immigration crisis in Europe, for example, is because of conflicts. It's not because people are doing great in their countries and they decide, hey, things are so wonderful, we're going to all go to Europe. And the conflicts are largely caused by the West and decisions made by the West in both the United States and European powers. So if you just got to go back 15, 20 years. And so you see that we're all connected in this together. So the decisions matter for other places. So anyway, that's my answer to that question. Collectively Unconscious says, what effect would you say the backlash to progressive attempts to replace conservative culture and beliefs plays in all this? Hang on. The backlash to progressive attempts to replace conservative culture and beliefs play. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I think what we've seen, it's not a concerted attempt here, right? Let me see if I can say this in a way that kind of makes sense to me. If I can be clear to myself, then maybe I can be clear. A lot of times, nobody's choosing certain things. Like when you think about, for example, cancel culture kind of stuff, it's like people aren't, the whole thing with trans rights and so it's not like people sit around a table and they decide they're going to move in a certain direction. It just starts. It's like a snowball just kind of starts going downhill and it picks up momentum and no one's really even in charge anymore. It's just happening. And so this progressive, this kind of social justice narrative that became so strong, especially in some spaces like schools and university spaces and so on. It's not like people aren't sitting around in a room thinking like, hey, this is the best way to be. We have to be this way. It's just it's more sort of like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, oh yeah, well, I have to make sure that when I write my syllabus, I have a little clause in there. It says, this class does not discriminate on the basis of, X, Y, and Z, right? Of sexual orientation and race and gender and, disability. And it's like, wait, why do I have to put that in my syllabus, man? Well, you just do. Of course you would put that in your syllabus. Like, I'm like, wait, why would I put it in the syllabus? If you stop and ask, it's like, wait, where did that come from? Who decided that? Someone just randomly decided and put it out there and suddenly it becomes a thing like, oh yeah, here's this thing. And then some other administrator comes along and says, okay, well, we'll just do that. Why don't we just tell people to put this in their syllabi and then it'll make it really easy. And if everyone just does it, then there's no question. And then suddenly it's, okay. And then before we know it, every single syllabus at a school like Penn State has this clause in it. And you just think, oh my God, it's like, whoa, wait, are we really, how'd we get here? And then it's something else and it's something else. And it's not like, so when you say like progressive attempts, it's more like, it's just like the snowball, and but I'm not saying this is the problem. Like, it's not like there's a group of people who are behind this, like this kind of secret thing or something. Yeah. In some spaces that's true, of course, but see, it's not, man. But there has been an attempt to kind of push back against what was considered to be not conservative culture, by the way. It's more culture of, it's a way of being that people deemed or decided was not sensitive or just not not supportive enough of people who were considered to be marginalized in some way. All groups considered to be marginalized. And it's like, well, they at some level, disabled students, right? Like when I was this faculty advisor for the disabled student organization at Rutgers back 40 years ago, nobody was talking about disability rights. I mean, come on, man. It was a non-issue. There was nothing in place for disabled students 40 years ago. And I'm sure that it's mostly true across most universities. But because people, started talking about these issues, the rights, and other people would say like, oh, why is that important? We shouldn't spend money on that. But disabled, students in wheelchairs, just as one group, were like, what do you mean you shouldn't spend money on this? Well, we need to have our buses here need to be capable of, they need to have wheelchair lifts, and people push back against it. Like, oh no, we don't need wheelchair lifts. That's so expensive, and curb cutouts and one thing after another. And, automatic door openers, all that stuff. None of it existed, but people fought for it. And they said, we're marginalized here. Like there aren't that many of us in wheelchairs, but still, like, why don't we have access to the campus like everybody else, So then it became this thing. Slowly over time, what happened was people started to say like, oh God, yeah, you see more people in wheelchairs, you see more people with disabilities, you see more. It became normal. We have curb cutouts everywhere. All the buses have wheelchair lifts and electric door openers. You hit a button, and I say hit a button because it's not like, it might be, if you're paralyzed, maybe it's just you got to use your elbow or something, right? And so then suddenly it just becomes a thing where, okay, all right, this makes sense. And then the voice that says, why are we wasting money on this or spending money on this, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So there was a concerted effort to replace that voice. It's not conservative culture, but it's the voice of people who were saying, like, this doesn't make sense, because they didn't know anybody with disabilities, maybe, So I think there's an example of things just sort of picking up over time, and then suddenly it becomes the norm. It's like, oh, okay, well now it's everywhere you go. So it's like, okay, we're gonna, not everywhere. There's still certain spaces, but almost everywhere, it's just kind of a normative thing now. Well, you just attach that to so many different groups of people and so on. So anyway, that's what I would say there. I hope that makes sense, man. Steven says, how can you prove that some of these polls are not biased or fabricated for political means? Well, first off, when I do a poll, I'm really careful about where I get the poll from and who's doing it. And so the poll that I used in class yesterday, that's a group of academics who are, quite thoughtful in their approach to these matters. So I don't just pull something off of Facebook or whatever, So you have to look and see who's behind it and who did the poll, and how did they get their information, and was it possible that somebody could bombard the poll? Like, it's some way that some group of people could like answer all the questions on the poll without the pollsters knowing that actually that's not a random sample in any way, shape, or form. So you just have to know that. Or you have to do the research on it. Okay, Cognitive Dissonance says, how do you feel about the view that mass immigration keeps wages low for corporations but makes life unsustainable for residents? I definitely think that that's true, but it's not wide across the board until immigration becomes mass with a capital M, because when I think about, like, here in the United States, I think about, like, it's very complex, man. When we work in, and there are some fields in which immigrants, undocumented immigrants, let's say, are operating that people really would operate in those areas, you know, like electricians or something. It's like, well, we got these guys that have been trained in Colombia and El Salvador and Mexico and so on, and they're here and they know the basics of being an electrician, and so they take on certain jobs. Well, we have electricians, although we don't have enough electricians because too many people are sending their kids off to college and not trade schools, and studying things like sociology. But you'd make more money as an electrician. But sometimes, but for so many things, there are so many jobs, you know, it's like, it's not, they're going to do the job unless they significantly raise the wages. And I'm thinking about like the mushroom caves in southeastern Pennsylvania, where, man, you go down in the cave and you're there for 4, 5, 8 hours at a time, and it's damp and it's dark and it's difficult, and you're underground, you're cultivating mushrooms, and like a lot of people don't last down there. And I don't know what kind of salaries you'd have to pay for people who are not undocumented, or who are not really low wage, or are not used to, or maybe that's one of the only jobs they can get, or whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, you can pay something, but then, you know, you're going to watch prices go up. It's incredibly complicated, man. And I absolutely always am like, if you get a chance, engage in communities of immigrants and the work that people are doing. Question for Bassem that Stephen had. Does he think that fighting between different groups are preventing growth and rebuilding in Iraq? Yes. Bassem would say 100% yes. It's 100% corruption, man. Okay. Qid Was says, when you hear the term Christian extremists, what do you think of? I think of people who want to impose mostly a very narrow vision of Christianity on the rest of the people. And they're willing to go far distances to make that happen and force it on other people. It's the idea. And Christian extremists are like other extremists, right? They think that they have the right answer, and that, you know, like that they're special, and people who think like them are special. And maybe they are, I don't know. But that's what I think of. So, and I think that it's quite unfortunate that we have any extremists at all, but such is the world. All right, man, office hours and questions. Here we go. Axel says, how do you feel about how the Secretary of War, first I'm like, wait, what's Secretary of War? I'm like, oh yeah, Secretary of War. You know, it used to be the Department of War in the United States, by the way. That's not a new thing. We're actually returning to that. It was Department of War, and then we changed to the Department of Defense. So Secretary of War in the Trump administration is doing with foreign policy compared to the Biden administration. Well, this is a complicated question. I have a lot of very, very mixed feelings on this. Yeah, I don't even know that I can answer. It's so complicated. You know, I was looking at his plan for Gaza, which is the greatest plan. And what did he say? This is the greatest shift in human history, or in human civilization, he called it, right? God, the greatest something in human civilization. And I looked at his points on the plan, and I thought, that's probably be the only thing that's going to work. And, and we haven't been able to make it work. And I'll be damned if Trump could pull that off. Yeah, it's crazy. But I was looking at it thinking like, wow, we came up with that. Anyway, but again, with an open mind, right? Like, I don't think the right in Israel is going to support it, so it doesn't really matter. And I don't think Netanyahu actually wants to support it. I think he's quite happy to have the whole thing fall apart and just keep doing whatever he wants to do. I don't know what's with that guy. Maybe it's just to stay out of prison. He thinks if he gets booted out of office, he'll go to prison. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But in any case, very complicated. It's incredibly complicated. I think the meeting they had yesterday, though, I don't think there was a high-ranking, the vast majority of people in that room listening, the high-ranking military brass who sat through Hegseth and Trump, were not happy to be there. And we're very unsettled by some of the things that were being said. I have no question about that. Yeah. Jetsam J from Texas. How do you feel about the Secretary of War and Trump administration is doing? Okay, hang on. That was Axel. Yeah, you missed that one. All right. Jeff, there must be another one there. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know if you watched that. Well, here, hang on. I have a couple things. I have a couple.
The question was supposed to be, I've seen a clip of a comment made during Social 19. It presented you in a negative likeness. How do you address whenever there's quote unquote creative editing to Social 19 clips? How do you respond? How do you think of them? How would you respond to those types of questions?
Yeah, I really dislike it. I don't watch clips. I probably should. That's Jeff's job, is to one of his many jobs is to try to find some of that stuff, but I don't like it. There's nothing I can do about it. People are going to do what they're going to do. It makes me, though, realize that various clips that I see out in the world are where someone's, whatever I'm seeing is, it's often going to be edited to look a certain way. Even like air rage on an airplane, you don't see anything that precipitates things, So, yeah, you just don't see it. I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it. Sometimes I think, I should just hang up my microphone and just in the cameras, just turn the cameras off and just walk away. But that's not really a solution either. So I guess I just have to tolerate a certain amount of that stuff. It's really unfortunate because, it's just unfortunate. It's not necessary, but
I talked to a streamer who's much larger than us a long time ago, and I asked, how do you look past the negative comments? And their response was, I don't look at either, the positive or the negative ones.
Yeah, that's how it is for me.
Because one day it'll be somebody screaming at me saying how awful I am, and then they'll see another clip of me and be like, oh my God, I completely changed my mind about you. And he's like, so I can't put any weight into people who criticize me like that, just so blah.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, Jeff, you know that's how I am. I don't pay it. I don't see anything unless you bring it to my attention. I have to be that way. I could never do this. And in a million years, I couldn't do it. It's hard for people to even teach a class with 30 or 40 or 50 people. And one of the reasons people don't even want to go to like 80 or 100 is because they know there are too many students out there making judgments about them that they can't connect with. So then once you get to 600, 700, or 800 students, and then it goes online, it's just not possible. So you just give up control. And it's funny because Laurie, my wife, is doing a lot of work locally, doing a lot of dialogues locally with people. She's calling them the red and the blue dialogues. And so she's meeting lots and lots of people out in the community in ways that she never has in the past. And she's just constantly running into people who will be like, somehow it comes out that she and I are married. It's just like, that's your husband. Like, how? And she's constantly coming home saying like, dude, do not think that you're invisible. you are not invisible, because I have this idea that I am. I'm just living my life, but she's like, you are not invisible, man. So just be thoughtful. Wherever you go, whatever you do, be thoughtful, right? It sucks. Okay, well, that doesn't suck. I can be thoughtful.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
I have one more question, and then I think we can
All
end
right.
the stream because we're at about an hour and 40 minutes-ish. Eric asked, what role do you believe the media, including the mainstream media, holds in the bipolar nature of our society? Eric believes it's now entertainment and not journalism. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I would say that. I think it's become entertainment. Yeah. It's unfortunate, right? Because, well, the profit for media is based on views and clicks. So, once that happens, it's not just advertising dollars. It's more than that. And more people are getting their news from social media, especially the people under 30. That means it's really about the clicks. And so, that's the thing that bothers me about when people take our videos and then they make some video and they add some clickbait title to it. I'm just like, oh man. But yeah, it's just, and it's entertainment. And they don't have an investment at all in helping people think about things in some kind of way, thoughtful way. So, hey, by the way, I just saw this thing that came out in the Washington Post a little bit ago today, that the Pentagon is planning widespread random polygraphs so that thousands of uniformed and civilian officials would be required to sign non-disclosure agreements and take lie detector tests. As the defense secretary ramps up war on leakers. It's like, oh man, damn, here we go. We're going to have polygraph tests for people in the military, man. Just like, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine anything more Orwellian than that, really. Yeah.
This is where L. Ron Hubbard failed. You don't go after Hollywood, you go after DC, because if it would have been that way, you could have had the cans be administered to everybody and not the polygraph. You missed out on a great opportunity.
L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, that's it. Scientology, baby. Yeah, and then just like, I mean, the stuff, man, like, oh my God, we're going to polygraph tests, and then the cities are going to be training grounds for the military. And it's like, wait, what? It's like, God, wait, what was that? What did I just hear? It's like, whoa, man, this is, some of this it's just, you yammer away and nothing's going to come of it, whatever, including the polygraph test thing. It's like, you're not going to do that. But the mere fact that somebody would even say that, you can't do that. Come on, man. Polygraph test. Please. NDAs I could see, but they already do an NDA, man. The people in the military, they take an oath to defend the Constitution. You know what I mean? Like there's your non-disclosure agreement right there, basically. Like, oh my God. Anyway, I don't know. It's beyond me, man. I'm starting to think that I'm getting dumber as the days go on. I just feel like I'm dumber. Like, I don't want to. It must just be me. I don't really understand. So, like, if I were smarter, all of this would make sense to me. All right, listen, tomorrow we're doing a class. It's a cool class, actually. It's going to be on discrimination, 2025 version. Yeah, I'm really curious about. I got a lot of classes lined up, but I just haven't pulled them in yet. But I think this will be just kind of a nice balanced class. And then next week, I think we're going to do the one on immigration. And then I have another one that I really want to talk to my conservative students in class, just conservative students. So I've been waiting to do that. So, okay. All right, man, let's bounce. Everybody, thanks for hopping on. I haven't been watching in any way, watching the chat. I just haven't had time because I've been responding to these. So sorry if I haven't just responded to anything in the moment. Maybe next time we'll do that more. So Jeff, all right. Okay, everyone, be well, and thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.